Hello, everyone. I'm so sorry. I didn't have an indication that I was supposed to start. Welcome to our closing keynote. I'm Betsy Delgado, Vice President of Mission Education for Goodwill of Central and Southern Indiana. I'm so sorry I was live that whole time moving myself around. That's pretty funny. Anyway, I did want to start today by doing a couple of things. The first is I really want to start with expressing our solidarity with all of those experiencing racial violence and/or injustice. There was a racial attack in Monroe County, Indiana this weekend, and then yesterday someone drove a car into the group protesting that violence. 2 of our staff members were at that protest, that rally, and they witnessed this incident. So we really want you all to know that we stand in solidarity with you all. Next, I would like to send out a huge thank you for and it just has been an incredible day, particularly to the National Conference Committee led by Katie Bustamante. This committee includes Cindy Kavanaugh and Justin Zabrowski from Michiana, Cindy Varner from Arkansas, Chelsea Kirk from DC, Candace Dawson-Taylor from Memphis, Dan Stevens, Kurt Ruiz, Jeff Hoover, Tanisha Adams, Michelle White, Corey Emery, Amanda Grube, Madison Ortman, Laura Cope, Rachel Zudke, Corinne Lorenzini, Josh Britton, Danny Smith, Steve Montgomery, Jen Rendant, Marcus Jewett, and Sarah Thomas. Want to send out a big shout out to Danny and Josh, who managed all of our technology for the day and were involved with all of our practices. Really appreciate the hard work that went into making this a great day. Let me give you some numbers from today. We had 372 attendees from 14 states. We had 9 Goodwills represented, 75 presenters from Indy, DC, Austin, Little Rock, Memphis, and Missouri, and Michiana, and Central and Northern Arizona presented today. Thank you so much. We'd like to also send a big shout out to some of the folks that are not Goodwill, Laboratory for Economic Opportunity at Notre Dame, and then our keynote speaker who's coming up shortly from Lumina. You know, even though we are sad that COVID has relegated us to Zoom for this conference, I speak on behalf of this entire network and leadership across this country of the Excel Center when I say we are privileged and honored to be able to spend the day with colleagues who are individually and collectively obsessed with what is good for Excel Center students and their families. So someone I know who is equally as obsessed as we are is our closing speaker, Dakota Palicki. Every time I look up or introduce Dakota, or prepare to introduce Dakota, I find out something new about him. But I will tell you, he is an Illinois State University grad. He's a past president of Urban Needs and Teacher Education. He was the director of college access at Chicago Public Schools. And he is a community advocate, a semi-pro tubist. And for his day job, he leads Lumina's community mobilization work as their strategy officer. Dakota's expertise is rooted in using influence and local cross-sector organizing to create social change. We need a lot more Dakotas in the world. I did unearth a new quote about him from someone from his past, and I thought it was very appropriate. And it just said, Dakota, pays it forward. So Dakota, we're so excited that you were able to join us again this year to close out our national conference. I wish I could be in the same room with you. However, I am really honored to introduce you. Palicki, everybody.
Thanks, Betsy. That's it means an awful lot. And you know, every time I hear introductions to myself, I always think I need to change one of those things on Twitter or something like that. You know, even though my tuba is still here in the background, I don't know if I'm a semi-pro anymore. I'm getting rustier and rustier by the day. But thank you for having me. And it sounds like an absolute wonderful day of meeting and learning that you all have been hosting. And I just want to say thank you again to you and the entire team for having me here. I know I've shared this before, but this is really a highlight of my year, is a chance to be with you all. And while I too regret that I'm unable to be there in person with you, I hope that this has at least given us an opportunity to expand the audience. So, you know, I'm hopeful that in today's kind of closing remarks, you'll indulge me a little bit. I've been really thinking a lot about choice lately, and looking around the country. We're starting to see how recovery efforts are going to start taking shape. And it's a stark reminder about how our system makes choices for people. When we look at the last recession, for example, we know that those who had some kind of post-secondary credential, whether that is a bachelor's or associate's degree, or even some kind of certificate or certification, you know, those people had a choice in the job market. Anyone who didn't have those kind of credentials really had no choice at all. 99% of the 11.6 million jobs that were created during the recovery from the last recession went to those that had some kind of education after high school. So if you had a high school diploma, or you didn't even have that high school diploma, the recession never ended for you. And the jobs that you had really never came back, and they aren't likely to come back anytime soon. Now that we're entering our current recession, we can already see the industries that are going to be most impacted by the combined forces of the pandemic, a struggling economy, unemployment, changes to the global supply chain, and automation, which is accelerating in some industries based on some of the changes that have had to be made. These industries include things like mining, oil and gas production, transportation, logistics, employment services, travel arrangements, and of course, leisure and hospitality, which we've all have seen quite a bit. But these are also the same industries that typically employ people of color and employ people without post-secondary credentials at much higher rates than other industries. So we're worried, we're concerned about the millions and millions of adults who have to care for their families, who have to care for themselves, that have either yet to earn a high school diploma and have yet to earn a post-secondary education. Because the bar for education attainment for success is just getting much, much higher. Combined with this, we're concerned at Lumina about a couple of other things. Right now, you know, we're anticipating pretty large budget cuts, particularly in public funding, at least for the next 2 fiscal years, that are going to impact the most vulnerable people in our communities. We're seeing people individually, students, adults, others, delay plans as their families struggle to meet the basic needs. And that's true whether you're talking about a student who is, graduating high school directly, or one of the many students that the Excel Center serves, debating whether or not to add the additional investment of pursuing their education while still providing their basic needs. And we're also concerned that plans for reopening education institutions, whether they be K-12 public schools or institutions of higher education, are really based on this traditional student experience. And they're leaving out adults, they're leaving out families, low-income students, and students of color who have competing priorities that need to be met. And I'm sure you can pick up any headline and hear about how some of these choices are being made by certain campuses and other groups that are really favoring those who have the kind of stability, have the financial backing to be able to make it through this kind of pandemic as we're trying to get on with business. But when I get back to choice, what I'm also really concerned about is how some of our recovery plans and options are already reducing or eliminating choice for the people we care about, for adults that need to start earning their education credentials in order to be successful in life. So if we take a step back for a moment, it's really important for us to recognize how important choice itself is to the human experience. Choice for many can feel like an illusion or a social construct, but it really is an important one. And I think I would argue that humans in some ways require choice. It's tied directly to satisfaction. For example, we're told as people that we're always involved in the process. whether it's in the civic process, the learning process. We even feel like the sequence of decisions that dictate the most basic elements of our life that we're included. And we see that now with some of the demonstrations and protests of people clearly speaking up and saying, listen, we have not been included. We haven't been included for a long time, and we're tired of being lied to. This all kind of roots down to choice and how we choose whether or not to engage in that process and whether or not people give us that choice. Too often, we feel like we're not included and that we did not have the choice. And that's really frustrating because so much of our daily lives is really oriented around the option of choice. You go on Amazon, right? Amazon is a great example of this. You type in anything you want, and you're going to find dozens of choices for a product, for colors, even your shipping methods. Just the other day, I was in a grocery store. I'm not much of a coffee connoisseur, but had to pick up some coffee. I walked into our grocery store, and there's an entire aisle full of different coffee options, different brands, flavors, countries, regions. And then you get into how you grind it. I don't even have a coffee grinder, so I've been using a blender. And then a friend of mine who's like a really coffee barista person yelled at me because a blender heats up the coffee bean too much and destroys the integrity of it, which I don't have the palate for that. And then they ask me about how I'm brewing it and if I'm using a drip pot or an espresso machine or one of those crazy ones with a beaker and paper funnel. I mean, there's just so many choices in my daily coffee. And yet there are so many people who look at choice as some kind of privilege, and even one step further as a reward. We use choice. Our system can use choice as a weapon, and it can use it to infantilize people. Think about a kid's menu. We limit options, so this way you don't have to go round and round with your child on what they're going to eat for dinner in the middle of the restaurant. Our system does the same thing to people that they don't feel deserve a choice anymore. And those are people of color, low-income people, and anyone else who has less agency than the typical white, male, normal model that our entire system is built around. And that's a really hard thing for those who have had nothing but choice to really understand, because they've always had the privilege of choice. And this is certainly true in education and jobs. For those that did not go down the typical path that our system tells them to go down, of moving right from high school into post-secondary, our system, our society tells them that they no longer have the choice, that they have lost the right to choose what their education and job is. They must accept that they cannot get a job that's fulfilling, or provides a sustaining wage, or satisfies them intellectually. They're told they can't have career ambitions, that they must settle for a job instead, a simple job that pays a couple bills. And if that wasn't enough, we also throw up barriers in their way to make sure they never get the privilege of choice again. We remove choices from people. Paradoxically, it's interesting though, because we know for a student, in order for student success, however old you are, reducing choice actually improves the chance of success. So certainly if I'm walking towards a goal, the fewer distractions or potential side excursions that I have available to me makes it more likely that I'm going to achieve that goal. So if I go back to the grocery store example, I have a list in my hand that limits my options. I'm not distracted by aisle end caps or last minute impulse buys as I wait to check out. You know, I'm really going to be successful in both my shopping and my financial goals, and likely my marital goals as well, increasing the likelihood of me being sent back to the grocery store. I still have choices in the store, but not too many. The same is true in education. We know that things like guided pathways, stackable credentials, predictive analytics, good advising, all the stuff that you all are doing as part of the comprehensive package at Excel Center's office, those things help people make meaning of their experience, and they allow the system to work for them, which is what it's designed to do. It's what it's supposed to do. And yes, ultimately, they limit the choice a little bit, but they have a positive impact on people and help people reach their credential more quickly. But the onset choice, the choice to pursue a better job or to pursue a sustaining wage, to provide for your family, two people are offered that choice anymore. And our system is really set up that unless you make that choice in your teens, you have to stay on the one track that's provided. And unless you have a series of luck and fortune to overcome society's propensity to reduce your choices to none. So lately, I've been talking to a lot of communities that are heavily segregated or don't have a lot of people of color in them. And when I try to talk to them about what's going on with race in our country, particularly with people who don't have relationships with people of color, they really don't understand how choice actually interacts with these themes. When you try to talk to them about redlining, for example, they'll just say to you, and I'm sure many of you have heard this, well, why don't they just move to another place? Let's just move to another city. As if that's a choice. You can't just pick up and move to another city. If you ask them about, having to leave high school early to take care of a family member, they say, well, if you had better family support, or maybe if you got a better job with insurance, you wouldn't have to leave high school. We criticize people's choices. And by criticizing their choices, we compare them to our own, and oftentimes to the white normative experience, particularly in communities that lack people of color and thus lack some empathy. We find that these communities are more likely to reduce opportunity for people who did not pick the path that we chose. They limit people's path because when they compare, they think they would have made a different choice. They think that way they made a better one. I think about that when it reminds me of growing up a little bit. There are times when growing up that homeless, we rely on food stamps, we rely on housing support. I had some friends who say things to me, how can you use food stamps to buy soda or candy? You shouldn't be allowed to buy those things. We should be able to tell you what to eat when you're on government subsidy. Same thing with the housing support. Why do you live in an expensive place? Why do you need 3 bedrooms? Well, we're a family of 5. We do the same thing. We try to limit people's choices if they don't take the path that we once chose. But at the end of the day, we know that choice is so closely tied to satisfaction, and that people must have choices, and that we have to enable people to choose the path that they want to have. And I think that's one of the things that I get so excited about working with you all, because Excel Centers, at the root of it, if you strip everything else away, I think you guys give people choice. You take people for who our system decided do not deserve choice anymore, and you give them one. And with that choice, you also give them the support they need. You say, hey, when you choose this path that's in front of you, you're not going to be alone. You're not going to be alone as you walk down this path towards better education, towards a new job, a career. And yes, it might be a little scary, but every choice is a little scary, especially when it's a risky one. And you're not going to be alone while you do it. And you give them the support they need. And when they graduate, it's them who gets to choose what's next. They choose whether or not to continue their education, a pathway that you set up for them. And they choose whether or not to go into the workforce to get that next job, that better job, the next career path that they've been trying to do. And oh, by the way, you also give them yes in education. And yes, we can talk about the positive ROI that you all provide to your regions and states. And yes, we can talk about the positive economic impact your graduates are making. And yes, we can talk about the self-sustaining wages that they're now making as their families. And we can talk about the reduction of poverty rates because of all the great work you do. And we can talk about the increase in success that the children of your graduates have. And also we can talk about all the other positive attributes that your graduates have and that you have on your graduates. But I know when I think about you, you're giving people a choice. You're giving people the power to choose again, maybe for the first time ever, or at least in the first time in a long time. And that power to choose, that right to choose, is so gratifying more than anything else. And so as we look to the future, we are concerned that there are not enough Excel Centers in the world. That there are not enough people who, like Betsy said, are obsessed with student success and obsessed with the success of the students and families that you have in front of you. We're already seeing some states make hard decisions and cuts that really limit people's choices. And the people that we're limiting are the same ones that we've been limiting over and over again. And that's why I'm so hopeful about you all. I am so hopeful that you're there, that you continue to provide really high quality, high caliber education to all your students and families. And also that you continue to advocate in your communities, in your states, in the country, for the kind of education and services that we need, because we need your graduates. That's certainly true. And so I just encourage you all to please keep up the work. Please allow people to keep choosing their future and give them the chance to choose once again. So again, thank you for having me with you today. I know we have a little bit of extra time. I'm happy to talk about anything that I didn't cover, but I just want to say, keep up the great work. I believe in you. We all do at Lumina, and you guys are, it's really a pleasure to be here today.
Thank you so much, Dakota. We really hope that you will come back year in and year out so that we can hear the inspiration. It's so good to start, and wonderfully this year we get to start our year with your message. So thank you very much. We really appreciate it. And we recorded you so we can play you over and over and over again as our inspiration.
Oh boy.
Thank you very much. We also have looked at the new goals and vision that is Lumina, and we really appreciate that the direction that Lumina is going. So in my unorganizedness before this started, I forgot to tell everybody what we're supposed to be doing after this. Many of you are going to be involved in a cocktail and mocktail lesson shortly after this. That Zoom has changed. There's a new link in your email. Please be on the lookout for a whole conference survey to come out. We want to continuously improve, so we'd love your feedback. That's from Katie, and those of you know Katie Bustamante, that's totally her. If you want to give individual session feedback for presenters, you can do that in the conference app. I just want to thank you all. It's been a great day. Enjoy the festivities this afternoon. And Dakota, thank you so much. We really appreciate your support. You show up for us every single time. Thank you very much. Have a good day, everybody. See ya.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.